All right. This passage that I'm using today is one that, if I had to guess, I probably preached more sermons and worked up more sermons from this passage than any one single passage. I have done several on the 23rd Psalm, but most of them are funeral messages. But if my people will pray, that's the title of this today. If my people will pray. You're familiar with 2 Chronicles 7:14, and we'll be looking at that in a minute. But let me give you a little bit of background here. King Solomon had inherited a country that was morally and socially broken. It had its problems. Now Solomon thought, hey now, if I build an elaborate, ornate temple to God, then God will see to it that the problems that we are experiencing here will just go away. And he built this huge temple. I've been there. Now, where I was the ruins of the temple. But the ruins looked pretty good to me. But after the temple was built, what happened? It seemed like that the problems were still there. They continued. And I try to put myself in the mind of Solomon. And I'm sure he must have wondered why. Why wasn't God sweeping away all of these problems? Well, Solomon didn't have to wait very long before he got an answer. Because God appeared to Solomon and explained to him why the problem was still there. And I'm going to ask that this scripture be flashed up on the screen right now, because this is what had happened. If my people, now God is talking through Solomon here. God is saying, if my people, my meaning God's people, who are called by God's name, will humble themselves and pray and seek the face of God and turn from their wicked ways, then I will heal their land. Now, every time I read that passage or talk about it, I call it an if-then clause. If you do this, God is saying, then I will do this. If you do these things, and we'll look at those more specifically in a moment, then I will heal your land. God was telling Solomon that this nation, the nation that he was over, could be healed. It's possible. God is saying, Solomon, this nation can be healed, but I'm not going to do it all by myself. Certainly we know God can do anything, anytime, any way he wants it. But God said, I can heal your land. I can heal all of these problems here. But I'm not going to do it all by myself. You've got a burden of responsibility, and you're going to have to help carry the load. The people is going to have to help in the process. They're going to have to do their part. Now, what was their part? We just read it. Humble yourselves. You've got to pray. You've got to seek the face of God. Seek God out in all that you do. And then you've got to turn from your wicked ways. Let's look at the nation of Israel. Let's see what was going on there and see how different, if there is any different, than what our needs are today across our land. You see, I believe that healing was possible. I think Solomon believed that healing was possible, but only if the people acted upon God's request. Now let's look quickly at some of the facts about our own land. Every day, 76 people across this country take their lives. Every day, someone can access one of over 1 million pornographic websites that's available on the internet. Every day, 14% of our nation's 8th graders admit they are using illegal drugs. Every day, 43 people are murdered in one of our cities across the country. That adds up to 16,000 murders a year. Every 8 seconds, someone in our nation has beaten up a woman. The statistics go on and on and on. That nation was not well. We look at all of these statistics and many more that I could spend 30 minutes on, and we'd have to admit our nation is not doing well. We look at the problems that we have all across our state. We're not doing well. But look at our own lives, and many would have to say, I'm not doing well. We look at our churches and say, we're not doing well. Now, there are some 4.4 million people in the state of Kentucky. Only 30%, 30 to 32% will attend worship on any given Sunday. 19% of the residents in Kentucky are living below the poverty level. There's some 45 million, which calculates out to 14.4% living below poverty level in our country. Statistics, again, go on and on. As a state, as a nation, we are morally and socially broken. Just as Israel was so long ago. Now remember, God told Solomon what his nation had to do to experience that healing. But now, do you know the rest of the story? Do you know what happened back there in 2 Chronicles? The nation ignored God's request. So their plight continued. And as a result, the country finally came to an end. I'm convinced, my friends, unless our nation follows God's request and follows the principles and the precepts that God has lined out for us, I am afraid the same fate awaits us. Okay, let's look at those 4 things that Solomon writes as God is speaking. Humble yourself. Humble yourself. No, that's not a word we like to use. Humility is not something a lot of people have a lot of. Some people may have a little of it. Most people have a tiny bit of it. But a lot of people have none of it. We too must remember that wherever we are in our pilgrimage of life right now, there comes a time when we must humble ourselves. Now, we have to realize that as a nation, we have to realize that as individuals, this world does not evolve around ourselves. It never has. It never will. I think about Pat Taylor. Pat Taylor happened to be at the Celebrators Conference. And when Charles Billingsley mentioned my name from the stage, he texted me, somehow tracked me down, says, I'm here. He is now president of Southwest University in Missouri. But I remember something that Pat Taylor said 40 years ago when I was in seminary, in college. I was zipping and running, working my way through college and working night shift and trying to go to school and all of that stuff. And I remember, I may have told y'all this before, I mixed no-dose, those little pills you can get which isn't good, no-dose and something else. Well, I was way there in La La Land. I think my roommate thought I was dying or something. He went and got Pat Taylor, who was the head resident there. And I said all of that to say this. I remember and I reminded Pat of this. And he didn't remember. He said, sitting there on the foot of the bed in that dorm room at 117 Pembroke Hall in Belmont University, college then. He said, Milkweed, guess what? If the world came to an end today, no, I'm sorry. If you died today, the world would still keep on going. Really? You mean to tell me this world's going to go on if I'm not around? Those words have echoed in the back of my mind many, many times over the last 40 years. This world really does not evolve around us. And the sooner we know that and the sooner we believe that, the better off we'll all be. So, let me ask you, if the world doesn't evolve around us, who does it really evolve around? I mean, who does it? Well, you're in church. I know what you're going to say. If you know anything about God's word, you're going to know that the world does evolve around God. He does know what he's doing. He is in control. He's still on his throne. God has to be number one in our lives. And that's the biggest part of our problems. We have replaced that number one slot where we once had God. Maybe it's for a day, one particular day when you accepted him, and the next day he was out of first place. And maybe he was there for several months or several years. But the bottom line is, God is not in first place in the lives of so many people because it has been replaced with materialism. It's been replaced with politics. It's been replaced with political correctness. It's been replaced by all sorts of things that fill our lives. So look at our lives. We look at the shelf of our lives, and right there on top shelf, oh my goodness, God used to be right there on the top. Where is God? You go through the shelf, oh my goodness, well, he's way down here. No wonder we got the problems we've got in our lives, in our nation, in our world. When God's word tells us that God has to be first, and we choose whether or not we want to believe it, and we don't believe it, then we suffer the consequences. Now, I know firsthand, when God is in first place, everything else falls into place. Now, the second thing God says here, pray. Now, I had an outline, and I couldn't get it printed up. It was stuck on my computer and wouldn't communicate with, I've had that problem before with the printer. Pray. But on that outline, I put pray in bold letters, capital letters. Pray. Now, it is apparent to me that there wasn't much prayer taking place in those days. In fact, it is apparent that most people weren't spending a lot of time talking to God. They were doing other things instead of spending time talking to God. I wonder, God's the only one that knows this, but I wonder how much time is spent in prayer on any given day in our country. Let's make it a little more personal. How much time is spent on any given day with our own church members, our own community? God only knows that, but you know how much time you spend. You know whether you feel like you spend adequate amount of time communicating with God. Statistics even tell us that Christians spend little time talking to God in prayer. Now again, I go back to that passage. If we want God to heal our land, whether it be the 50 states here in the United States or whether it be our own little world and the things going on in our own little world, then we've got to spend more time communicating with God and being in tune with him. We need to pray for our nation. We need to pray for our leaders. And guess what? On November the 9th, after, I guess, It will be declared by then who's going to be the president. Guess what? God is still in control. God will still have his hand on the throttle of the universe. He'll still have his hand on the throttle of your life. Unless you take it off. So I don't need that right now, Lord. I'll govern my own self. I'll direct my own self. And many times that's what we do. I think that as a church, I think that as individuals, we need to up the ante on our time in prayer. More time communicating with God. We recognize that our land needs healing. We talk about it, but how much time do we really pray about it? God also told Solomon, you've got to humble yourself, you've got to pray, and you've got to seek his face. Now, God is really talking about worship right here as we look at all of this. And apparently, few people in Solomon's day felt the need to worship. That's the same problem going on across our land today, isn't it? Now, think about it. Back then, there was a culture that was disintegrating, and they did not feel like that the need of worship was important as it once was. Look at where we are now. Sunday school attendance all across the country is going down. That's been true for many years. It's been declining. But even worship is slowly dying in our country. At one time, every church in this county was full. At one time, every church, when they had revival, had more people than they could accommodate. Look at the history of the churches around here. We don't see that today. Why is that the case? Because worship is not a priority for us. The collective gathering of God's people, as Hebrews tells us, coming together and to worship him isn't on that top list. It's not a priority for us. We will go if, and there's so many ifs there, we don't get to go. Now, statistically speaking, many churches are dwindling in worship and in Sunday school. Now, there's a number of reasons. I think some are reasons, some are excuses. You know, there's more people working now on Sunday than they used to. There's more people carrying on 2 jobs now than they used to. There's a lot of people that work 4 days a week in one job. They got 3 extra days. So they pick up another job. It keeps them from going to church. And then some would say, I went to church. Church is just so boring. I got better things to do with my time. I don't know whether you can blame that on the preacher, or the song leader, or whoever. Maybe your heart just wasn't right. You didn't come to see what God could really. And then there's a whole world of other curriculum activities that pulls us away from church. Pulls us away from seeking the face of God. But again, I go back to what Solomon was saying. If our country is going to receive the healing that it needs, then we must reclaim worship as something that is important and is special to us, and we must get back into the habit of regularly seeking the face of God every Sunday. Unless we're working, unless we're providentially hindered. When you have that choice, where do you go and what do you do? See, I believe that when we come into the presence of God, and we're open to him, things change. We change. But it takes that coming into his presence and seeking his face. And when we change, it's for the good. And because we're changing for the good, we are growing. We're growing individually. We're growing as a collective group of believers. We're growing as a church. We're growing as a community. So we look at those steps there. You must humble yourselves. Got to pray. We've got to seek the face of God. And then we've got to turn from our wicked ways. Can we have a confession time in here today? We'll just make this little corner over here a confessional, okay? I'll put on my little Roman collar and you just come and confess. I'll confess to you. See, we've all got things that we need to turn from. I don't care how good you think you are, how Mr. Goody-Goody Two-Shoes you are. Every one of us have things that we need to turn from. Maybe some addiction. Maybe some bad habit or habits out there. Some kind of irrational behavior. Maybe it's an attitudinal problem. If we were honest with ourselves, say, okay, God, I know you know. Help me, Lord, to turn. Help me, Lord, to turn from my wicked ways. See, every one of us could stand to do a little bit of tweaking. And maybe I should say every one of us could stand to allow God to do some tweaking in our lives. Now, if God really got out his tweaking tools today, what would he tweak about us? What would he tweak about the things that's going on? What would we allow him to tweak? And with his tweaking, it may hurt. It may not be good. It may not be fun. But it's God getting us to the point where he wants us. He may tweak out some of the negative attitudes. But I do believe that when we trust God to put the tweaking tool to work in our lives, then our life as a whole will be much better. Now, having said all of that, I believe that every one of us must do our own part to live rightly, to live righteous lives. That's the only way our nation is ever going to experience the healing. We have to live with a sense of righteousness, not perfection. That's not what I'm talking about, but righteousness. If everyone here within the walls of this church today or any part of this church did their best to be honest and seek the face of God every day, every minute of every day, in all of our thinking, in all of our actions, and living a life of integrity, honoring God, things would be a lot different. The country that Solomon lived in was sick. It needed healing. The people knew it. Solomon knew it. Our country is sick. There's a lot of problems. There's a lot of issues. Our country is not doing well morally. And I think most of us realize that when a country is not doing well morally, it trickles all the way down, even into our churches, even into our homes, even into our individual lives. And if we can get our own lives right, humbling ourselves, praying, seeking the face of God, and the only way we can ever begin to turn from wicked ways is having those things in place. We've got to have a sense of humility. We've got to pray. We've got to seek God's face. And we won't even want the wicked ways in our lives. Healing our nation. Healing our church. Healing our community is not easy. But it is possible. And God tells us what we need to do. God tells us right here what we need to do. We have God's request. The question is, are we going to follow God's request? Well, I'm standing here today telling you I'm going to do my part. I hope that you pledge and determine in your own mind that you're going to do the same. You see, the strength of this nation is not found in the White House. The strength of our nation is not found in Congress on the Hill. The strength of our nation is found in the church house, in our homes, as we humble ourselves and pray and seek the face of God. Then we can turn, and we turn to Him. Let's pray. My blessing for each of you is this. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord cause His face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up His countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen. Talk about the Bible being never changing. That's because God, who is ultimately the author of the Bible, is never changing. A never changing God in an